Live stream today. Today's live stream is going to be sponsored by all of the personal development of the early 1900s. Okay, I've been going through all of that karmic kind of, we already know, but we're trying to explain it in a better way today. In other words, in the early 1900s, the late 1800s, you really had this renaissance of personal development. Obviously, it's been happening before then, but in the 1800s and before, it was really based around religious texts. So there was kind of a dogma or a stigma around it. And the stigma would be like, you must do this or it's bad. But when you actually have something, say, karma or the law of causation, which I'm going to be talking about today, it puts everything into an algorithm, okay? Whether you believe in whatever reality that we're living in, a simulation, not a simulation, physical universe, not a physical universe. Personally, I believe that everything is frequency, everything is vibration, everything is infinite, and we're just literally just, and by the way, I don't believe that. I learned it from the smartest people like Tesla, okay? They already figured this out. And essentially, the whole world operates on this law of causation. So the law of causation is exactly what, I never saw the movie, and don't hate me because I never saw Star Wars. That's where the Yoda talked about there is no try or something along those lines. I'm totally butchering it right now, so I'm sorry for all those Star Wars fans out there. I'm not a big fan of Hollywood or music or entertainment in general or shows or sports or things like that. But the number one thing from that is that, so I've been, before I get into that, I've been tracking all of my activities. I'll give you an example. So I meet with Eric, this is the guy that we prospect together, and he's like, I want to do better on my calendar. And I'm like, that's not really anything. That's kind of saying like, I want to get into shape. That doesn't mean anything. You know, I want to make money. I want to get into a relationship. I want to have a wife, or I want to get married, whatever the case is. Most people walk in and they have like what they want, but ironically enough is that there's no activities towards what they want. And Alexa already knows how much I talk to myself in the mornings, okay? And I was actually figuring this out today because on my run, I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, and they all, it wasn't podcasts, it was YouTube videos, and they're talking about, it was more of the early 1900s thinking, which was essentially that there's natural laws to the universe. Bob Proctor's already talked about this, and everyone before him in the 50s, you know, Oj Medino, Earl Nightingale, there's a bunch of the books behind me over here that essentially all spoke about, and by the way, they're about only 80 to 150 pages. They didn't do this nonsense of 200 to 300 pages that we have today. It's crazy. Just give me the meat and potatoes. I don't need the fluff. I don't care about the marketing of the extra 50 pages. Back then, Earl Nightingale would just give truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb, and you're like, wow. And he talks about it. The number one thing he's most popular for is that men don't think. So before I get into the law of causation, I know it's a rant, and I always go into these rants, but this is the most important thing, is that before you can actually have causation, okay, before you can actually move something into progress, and I'll bring it around to Yoda, is that there has to be thinking. So essentially what he said, in short, Earl Nightingale in his famous Men Don't Think is, I just double repeated it, but essentially there's no time that you literally sit in silence. Every philosopher, every great physicist went on walks. Tesla went on walks, Einstein went on walks, Schrodinger, all of them went on walks. And the reason being is that, you know, it's like, well, you know, in the shower I get my ideas. It's like, why don't you intentionally put 15 minutes into your day where you walk home or you park the car further away, like 6 blocks away or whatever the case is. In New York City, we obviously don't have that, so there's a lot of downtime. And we don't have any internet service in the subway, and I don't use my headphones in the subway, multiple reasons, safety, and also that's when I do my thinking. You know, I go in with a topic, and the topic is, well, I'm out of shape, or I want to get married, or I want to make more money, or something specific with my business, like why is this happening? You know, say a deal is going sideways. How do I actually conversate with the owner? How do I actually bring this topic up with the buyer to make sure they come up to what the seller wants and the seller comes down to what the buyer wants and we can go into contract? And to be honest, what the YouTube videos we're talking about is that nothing makes it into physical form. Nothing makes it into physical form without thought, without thinking about it first. Nothing materializes. I have this. Nothing materialized without thinking, I'm going to actually do it a nice, soft, and it's scrunchy instead of like the hard plastic that most have. I'm going to make sure there's a handle on here. We're going to make it a professional color. We're going to have it nice professional design here. This was thought. Then they either wrote it down or they typed it into their cell phone or their computer, and they said, this is an idea, and then that's 2D, so now it went from 1D to 2D, and then they put it into maybe CAD or some software, they made it 3D, but it's still on a computer, it's not in the physical form. It's the same thing with a cell phone. Anything you see made it, you know what, we should have a travel size Vaseline bottle instead of this big thing. You know, we should have it travel size. That's a thought, okay? So, and the reason I say that is that we are trying to change physical matter. Physical matter would be money, relationships, our job, or whatever, our body. We want to change physical matter, but we're not actually thinking about the physical matter that we want to change. Most people are just going through their lives and they're just saying, hey, listen, I want a better body, but they're taking no action. They're not thinking about what makes me get a better body. Nobody thinks about how this relationship could get better with my spouse or my girlfriend. Nobody thinks about that. So they're just literally living only in the physical world and saying, I want this to change. But as the saying goes, if you're not doing anything different, nothing different's going to happen. If you come from the same line of thinking, nothing's going to change. Okay, this isn't new. Okay, we're trying to manipulate this reality without actually thinking. So once you start thinking about the problem, you have to move it to an activity. Okay, so the activity is essentially what's going to cause you. So an activity is I want more money. That means you have to prospect. Okay, what is I want to prospect. What does that mean? Okay, I'm going to make 10 contacts. Be specific. Then you have to hold yourself accountable. So the law of causation essentially starts with thought. It starts with a problem. It starts with thinking about what you want to change. Then you move it into an activity. And the activity is, I want to get into better shape. Okay, how do I track that? Well, I'm eating too many cookies, or I'm not going to the gym. Okay, so instead of doing an extreme thing, which is I'm going to go to the gym for 4 hours and make sure that I'm sweating and drenched, and I'm going to do it 7 days a week, you're going to walk in and you're going to say, as long as I work out for 10 minutes, as long as I do 5 minutes of walking. And the reason being is that if you are not doing an activity, it's impossible to start an extreme thing. That doesn't happen. It's like, I want to start prospecting. I want to do 200 contacts today. That's not going to happen. Or you do it 1 or 2 times and then you burn out. So why am I saying the law of causation? The law of causation is essentially the pinnacle law. People call it karma. People call reap what you sow. People call it all these things that like you can't harvest something that you didn't grow. There's so many ways that people have described the exact same thing. And as Yoda said, there is no try. You didn't try to get into shape. You either did the activity or you didn't do the activity. That's it. I have 3 pages of Streaks app. So Streaks app is a habit tracker. It's free. It's 3 pages. Each one I think has 2, 4, 6 on each page. So 6 times, I think I have 18 activities per day that I track. And you go, oh, that's a lot. It's actually not. It goes in order. I've already talked about this in a previous video, so go watch that about, I think it's named like the best habit tracker or something like that. But the reason I'm saying that is I want to go to Kona, which is the Ironman World Championship. I also want to have kids and a family. So I need activities that lead me to Kona. I need activities that lead me to wife, kids, and be able to afford it. So what are the activities day to day? Okay, the first thing is you got to be in shape and do your workouts for Kona. You also have to make sure you eat well. Eating well actually is congruent to doing better in business. That also congruent to actually dating and having energy to date. So that's actually really good for a lot of areas. Okay, I'm also going to prioritize sleep. All right, and prioritize sleep means before bed, I am not on my phone. 3 hours, I do not eat before bed. And then all of the caffeine, which is 1 shot of espresso, is in the morning. And hopefully 12 hours later, I think they set up to 18 hours. It's still in your system, but hopefully I'm going to be leaning off that. That's a tough one, but I don't have it after I wake up. I don't have it during the day. I don't have it at, oh, I'm low energy, I need coffee. I don't do that. Okay. And by the way, I just do it for the taste. I don't even do it for the energy. I don't really need the energy. And to be honest, it kind of puts me over the top on the energy. I already talk too fast. I already act too fast. So when you look at law of causation, so the law of causation is if I don't say I love you to my girlfriend or my wife, or if I don't show affection, or if I don't go to the gym, or if I don't, the cause, it's an algorithm. It's a 1 or a 0. And I think this was Boole thought of this in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think. And essentially, everything in reality, everything runs on the Boolean algorithm, I think, whatever they call it. But everything, it's a 1 or a 0, everything. Computer screens, everything you see is a 1 or a 0. That's it. It's just how you transmit any kind of image, anything electronically, anything on a website, anything visual. Literally anything visual is Boolean. And that came out, I forgot his first name, but Boole. So in other words, if you could literally say that everything is a 1 or a 0, it's either on or off, then your whole life, every habit. I'm not trying to get into shape. I'm not trying to find a wife and kids. I'm not trying to grow this big company or to speak publicly globally. I have to do specific steps. So the step is, well, I need something to talk about. I also have to do YouTube videos. I also have to read. So those are steps. Read 10 pages. Okay. I also have to go and be in shape. So that's do your workout. Okay, that's an activity. Okay. The law of causation, I'm telling you right now, if you just start looking it up on YouTube, they have explained it a lot better. Put in the law of causation and say Earl Nightingale, or do Dale Carnegie, or do any of the old school people that essentially were just very direct and very good at the way they actually spoke about it. So that's today's quick rant. Everything in your life is an algorithm. If you do something, there's going to be a cause. If you don't do anything, there's also going to be a cause. Okay? And this is the last thing I'll leave you on. A lot of people, actually, someone asked Joe something, he runs Spartan, and DeSena, I think is his name. I actually read his books. Actually, one of his books might be here. Yeah, it's actually here. Joe DeSena. So he essentially said on an Instagram reel today is that people ask him all the time, how do you get motivated? How do you do this? How do you do that? And essentially what he was getting to is that he doesn't think about how he feels. Okay, he doesn't think about, well, I want to get out of bed, but I want to stay. He goes, I don't feel motivated most of the time. And essentially what he's saying is that if you stay in bed and you snooze your alarm and then you look at your cell phone, you are essentially causing something. If you get out of bed and you immediately start doing a push-up or visualization like I do, then you cause something else. And essentially once you start stacking that, good or bad, you start stacking good or bad. And then out of nowhere, they say, Joe, how do you feel, how do you get so motivated? Well, the thing is that he has stacked so many about no snoozing, get out of bed, get the work done, over sitting in bed, being lazy, looking at your cell phone. It's not luck. Yes, there's portions of luck, there's portions of opportunity, but too many people are like, oh, they're lucky, or they're born for this, or it's in their genes, or everything else. For how many people that say it's in their genes, they're born with it, they're lucky and everything else, it's essentially depowerizing all the people that are putting in the work and getting the same result. You're essentially taking away power, I don't think depowerizing, but you're taking away power from someone who's actually putting in the work and showing up every single day and doing a triathlon. And they say, oh, they're lucky. No, they showed up every single day and they did the workout. That relationship is on fire. Well, that's because they both communicate the way that they want to be communicated with and with the other person. It's not by accident. Things don't happen by accident. And I know I said this before, but there was someone I was dating, and I keep on saying that. Nothing happens by accident. That's what I truly believe. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens exactly the way it should be. And that's in how many philosophical books, Michael A. Singer when it comes to Untethered Soul, when it comes to Eckhart Tolle, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, with David R. Hawkins with Power versus Force, like all of these guys, Dr. Wayne Dyer, they all talked about everything is happening perfectly. You are exactly where you are because of the exact decisions that you made. I'm in New York City because I didn't want to move out of New York City. I'm doing a YouTube video because I wanted to do a YouTube video. There's also other things. I don't have the money that I want. I don't have the kids that I want and the wife that I want. I don't have a Kona slot. I don't have this big company because of the decisions I made. So it's accepting the good and the bad. But you don't look at it as good or bad. You look at it as this is how it is. You just look at reality and say, this is how it is. What do we need to do differently going forward? The first is to think about it. And in the law of causation, you have to trigger it through actual activities, actual consistent activities. And I highly recommend the the app Streaks. And it's not paid. I'm not paid by them. It's free. It's just been very beneficial for me. I also, at the end of the month, which is coming up right now, I go back through that month and I say, how did I compare? And I track it in a spreadsheet. How did I do with the same activities? What month did I have better sleep? And then I correlate it. Oh, I went out too much, or I drank there, or I had bad food there, or I slept too late, or I missed a workout. And I can then say, through the law of causation, through the correlation of activities, this is actually beneficial, this is not beneficial. We all know what works and doesn't work. Like, this isn't like, we don't need to go back to the year zero and be like listening to everyone from Plato, Aristotle, Epictetus, and Jesus, and everyone that came before us. Like, this has been around. It's been hidden, unfortunately, because people are trying to go to the physical universe when things aren't physical. And we got to bring back that everything is a law, and it's the universe, and there's many laws behind it. And there's actually a great book that I just picked up. There's no Audible, which I'm not happy about, but because it makes me read faster. But I will definitely do a book review on it. I'm starting it on Monday. I have to finish another book. I got to get back into my book reviews. That's, people love the book reviews. It gets the most views. It gets them most cited. They don't have to read it. They don't have to buy it. They don't have to spend the time, and I do it. So any questions, let me know. We're going to be going live at least once a week. Kicking it to everyone out there that is living not the way they want, is start now. Don't start at January 1st. It's a lie. It's all a lie. They actually have I was going to end it there, but they actually have data. They took data from gyms, and they said after January 17th is when there is a noticeable drop-off of people that actually go to the gym. That's less than 3 weeks. Habits don't last for more than 3 weeks in most cases, especially as something potentially as big as going to the gym. So have an amazing day.